We're standing at a memorial to the 300,000 Jews that were taken from this spot. They would be taken from the Warsaw Ghetto, which is right in back of us here, brought to this spot in wagons, and then taken out to the extermination camps. It's amazing how many countries conveniently justified Hitler's words and actions with his premeditated and obviously warped reasoning. They looked away as the blood began to run down the streets, and the wailing of the women of Jerusalem could be heard, and is still heard if one has ears to hear and eyes to see. Here on the arch which still hovers over the spot where the Jews were forced to board trains to torture and death, a sign warns those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it.
June of 1939, Edith wrote her last will and testament, offering herself as a sacrifice. September the 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. 1940, Edith's sister Rosa came to the Carmel in Echt. She desired, like her sister, to become a religious. But before she could become a Carmelite nun, Hitler invaded Holland. She became a third-order Carmelite. September 1st of 1941, Edith and her sister Rosa were ordered by the Gestapo to wear a yellow Star of David inscribed Jew. It didn't matter. They were converts to Catholicism.
July 1st, 1942, the Nazis decreed that Jewish Catholic children were no longer permitted to go to Catholic schools. The bishops in Holland protested this treatment of innocent children. They also came out strongly against the deportation of Jews from their native land. It was read at all the masses on July the 26th. On August the 2nd, the Nazis ordered all Dutch Jews converted to Catholicism to be arrested. Edith Stein and her sister were picked up that evening. Dutch citizens stood at the front of the Carmel, incredulous, grief-stricken, helpless. They heard Edith say to her sister Rosa, "Come, let us go for our people."
On August the 7th, the two sisters were transported from 2 Dutch camps to Auschwitz. They, with thousands of helpless Jews, were jammed mercilessly into cattle cars to make the long ride to hell. Many died before they arrived in Auschwitz. There was no air in the cars, no facilities to relieve oneself, no water or food for days. When one died, the others had to remain with him in the same car.
In 1982, a former German soldier testified that in August 1942, on his way to Russia, a cattle car stopped alongside his train in Breslau. A guard opened the door and he saw people heaped on top of one another like bundles of rags, others swaying back and forth listlessly, the moaning and wailing of men and women interrupted only by the pathetic crying of little children. There was a nun among them wearing a yellow Star of David. She said, "This is my home. I'll never see it again. We are going to our death." This was Edith Stein.
When at last they arrived, a welcoming band greeted them with German folk songs. They were told to disrobe completely. They were handed soap and towels. A sign read, "Clean is good." They were led to cottages where they were told they would be deloused. The mothers, with an instinct only a mother has, tried to hide their children under the clothes until they would come out from the showers. When the guards caught them and asked them why, they replied they were afraid the disinfectant would harm the children. They were assured this was nonsense, and so the mothers led their children into the cottages with them.
For Edith and her sister and all the others who had survived the days of unbearable heat locked inside the airless cars, the walk from the train stop to the cottages was a long, hard one. It was the beginning of the implementation of the Nazis' perfect plan. They had devised a method of disposing of the Jews and their political prisoners in the fastest, most efficient way. They came upon Cyclone B, a bitter, extremely poisonous gas that was supposed to kill those trapped within in 15 to 20 minutes. Before they died, their lungs, their throats, their esophagus was set on fire by this powerful acid. It was a horrible death.
But when Edith and her sister arrived, the Nazis had not yet perfected this method of exterminating defenseless men, women, and children. The guards had not thrown enough cans of cyanide in the airtight sealed cottage, and so when they opened their door 24 hours later, they were still alive. They threw in more cans.
There is a banner in the Church of Maximilian Kolbe in Dnieper-Kalamov, and it shows him with the striped prisoner's outfit on and the number 16670, and all around him it says, "No more concentration camps ever." And we have to believe that if we've learned one thing from this, and current history doesn't say that we have, but we should have learned one thing from this: no more Auschwitz ever. On August 9th, 1942, Edith Stein and her sister were brought to Auschwitz, to Birkenau, by train. They were taken off the train and immediately marched to this area. In a barracks, which is not here anymore, across the way, they were stripped naked, and they were brought into this building, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a white cottage. And in this white cottage, they no sooner got inside than they were gassed to death.
Edith Stein believed, Sister Teresa, blessed by the cross, believed that the only way was through the cross. You see, she fell in love with Jesus on the cross, the crucified Jesus. She knew that he had died for the redemption of her people, his people. And she knew that when this Holocaust started, there was only one way, that she give her life for the salvation of the Jewish people. So like that Jew once before, who walked the way of the cross so that the world would be redeemed of its sins, Teresa, blessed by the cross, another Jew, walked to her cross, only her cross was a cottage. And she died painfully, just like the Savior, who she loved so very much.